Valentine's Day, a celebration of love, passion, and promises meant to last forever. But what happens when those promises are broken and love turns into something far darker? Some stories are told to warm the heart, but this one will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about devotion. We uncover the chilling truth behind a Valentine's Day that went terribly wrong. A night where love became a haunting memory. Prepare yourself for a tale you'll never forget. In the heart of a quiet, forgotten town, Valentine's Day was more than just another date on the calendar. It was an event that consumed every corner of the community. For weeks, the air was thick with excitement as the townsfolk prepared for the annual Valentine's Day ball. At the center of it all stood the Crimson Rose Inn, a place known for its elegant charm, but also its tragic past. Some said the walls whispered of lost love and broken hearts, of a tragedy that had forever stained its floors. Ella had heard the rumors, of course, but she didn't believe them. She was a quiet soul, eager to step out of her comfort zone, to finally experience the magic of the ball she had dreamed of for years. This would be her first time, and she couldn't wait to step into a world filled with romance and enchantment. Her date, Henry, was charming, with a smile that could melt anyone's doubts. But there was something about him, something Ella couldn't quite place. The way his eyes darted nervously, the way he hesitated whenever someone asked about his past. As the night drew near, a sense of foreboding settled over the town, as if the land itself held its breath in anticipation. Ella could feel it, a coldness in the air she couldn't ignore. Little did she know, this night would change everything. The ball was everything Ella had imagined and more. The grand hall shimmered under the glow of countless chandeliers, casting a soft, golden light over the couples spinning across the polished floor. A violin played softly in the background, the sweet melody adding to the dreamlike atmosphere. It was a night of romance. Ella felt a thrill in her chest, the excitement of finally stepping into a world of beauty and grace. But as the music swirled around her, something didn't feel right. A cold chill brushed the back of her neck, and a prickling sensation crawled up her spine. It wasn't just the atmosphere. It was as if someone or something was watching her. She glanced around, but no one seemed out of place. She turned to Henry, his face a mask of calm and warmth, as though everything were perfectly normal. He smiled at her reassuringly. "It's just the nerves, Ella. Everyone feels it on their first ball." Still, she couldn't shake the feeling. The eyes she felt on her back, the whispers she swore she could hear in the corners of the room. She tried to push it out of her mind, focusing on Henry, his presence calming her. He was everything she could have wanted, handsome, attentive, with a charm that kept her captivated. But as the night wore on, his demeanor began to shift. At first, it was subtle, a tightening grip on her hand as they danced, a sharp look whenever another man approached her. He became possessive in ways that unsettled her, his gaze following her every move with a hunger that made her stomach twist. Then, just as the clock struck the hour, Ella was startled when a soft voice called her name. She turned, finding herself face to face with an elderly woman, her eyes heavy with wisdom and sorrow. The woman's appearance sent a cold shiver through her, though Ella could not say why. She leaned in, her breath ragged as she spoke. "Leave now, before midnight. It's not safe for you here. You don't know what he's capable of." Ella, confused and unsettled, tried to brush it off as some superstitious ramblings, but the woman's words stuck with her, gnawing at her as the night continued. As she danced with Henry, a sense of dread grew, and her hand brushed something unexpected in her bag. A folded note, its edges sharp and crisp, as if it had been waiting there for her. She opened it, the words scrawled in hurried ink. "Do not give your heart tonight or it will stop beating." The message was simple, yet its meaning was impossible to ignore. Ella's pulse quickened, and her breath caught in her throat. She glanced up at Henry, his expression unreadable. But there was something in his eyes now, something darker. The possessiveness had morphed into something more dangerous, more desperate. As the night wore on, the eerie feeling intensified. Henry's grip on her grew tighter, and his words became less kind, more urgent. It was as if he was trying to hold on to something that was slipping through his fingers. Ella's heart raced, not from excitement, but from fear. The evening that had begun with such promise was slipping away, and she had no idea how to stop it. The clock struck midnight, its toll echoing through the hall, marking the end of the night's magic. Under the soft glow of the moon, Ella and Henry shared a kiss on the terrace, the world around them fading into a blur. The moment felt perfect, like something from a dream. But as they pulled away, a sudden chill swept over the garden. The candles that had once illuminated the space flickered violently before going out, casting them into complete darkness. Ella froze. The wind howled, sharp and cold, biting through the layers of her dress. Her heart raced, the sense of unease now undeniable. The air seemed to thicken, heavy with an unseen presence. Then, out of nowhere, a cold hand brushed against her neck. The hairs on the back of her head stood up. She turned, but no one was there. A whisper, barely audible, echoed in her ear. "You'll regret this." Ella's breath caught in her throat as she spun around to face Henry, his expression no longer warm, no longer comforting. It was as if the man she had known just moments ago was gone. In his place stood a stranger. Someone desperate, someone tortured. He took a step closer to her, his voice trembling with a dark confession. "Ella, I have to tell you the truth. I'm not who you think I am." His words hung in the air, too heavy to ignore. She stared at him, unable to speak as he continued. "I was cursed by her, my former lover. She died on this night, on Valentine's Day years ago. She was taken from me, and every year on this night, I must claim another heart to survive. I didn't want to do it, but I had no choice. The curse, it controls me." A figure stepped out from the shadows behind him, its form barely visible at first, like smoke swirling in the wind. But as it took shape, the figure became clearer, tall, thin, and draped in the remnants of a wedding gown, stained with blood. The eyes were empty, hollow, yet filled with rage. It was her, the woman who had died, the woman whose love had twisted into vengeance. Henry's face drained of color as the figure took a step toward them, its voice a soft, chilling hiss. "You should never have come here. Now, you belong to me." The vengeful ghost of Henry's ex-lover had returned, her presence more than a mere haunting. It was the final piece of a puzzle that Ella could never have imagined, until now. The ballroom, once filled with laughter and music, descended into chaos. The ghost moved like a shadow, its presence making the very air crackle with a palpable fear. Guests screamed and scattered, but no one was safe. The candles sputtered and died, the chandeliers above swayed, and the temperature dropped so quickly that Ella could see her breath in the air. The walls seemed to close in, the floor beneath her feet trembling. People tried to escape, but the doorways slammed shut, trapping them inside. Ella's heart pounded in her chest as she grabbed Henry's arm, pulling him toward the exit. But the ghost was already there, standing in the doorway, its hollow eyes locked on them. "You cannot escape love or death," it whispered. The air grew thick, suffocating, as the figure reached out with icy fingers, its power locking them in place. Henry's face was twisted with fear now. "Ella, you don't understand," he gasped. "She will never let us go. She'll take us both, one way or another." But Ella wasn't listening. She had been listening to the wrong voice for far too long. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. The cursed locket, the one Henry had given her earlier that evening, still dangled from her neck. This was the source, the symbol of his dark past. With a deep breath, she ripped it off, and with all the strength she could muster, she hurled it toward the fireplace. The locket tumbled through the air and landed with a sharp clink before catching fire. The flames leapt up, and for a split second, the room fell silent. Then, the ghost let out a deafening, bone-chilling scream, one that echoed through the very walls of the inn. It writhed and convulsed in midair, its form beginning to dissolve, fading away like smoke in the wind. Ella stood there, heart racing, as the chaos around her slowly died down. The curse was broken, the ghost was gone. But as the silence settled, she couldn't shake the feeling that the night had changed her forever. Weeks passed, and Ella and Henry tried to move forward, their love blooming in the quiet aftermath of that night. But Ella couldn't shake the memory of what had happened, the ghost, the curse, the terror that had almost consumed them. The town, shaken by the events, decided to cancel future Valentine's Day balls, too afraid to ever repeat that nightmare. Life returned to a semblance of normalcy, but for Ella, the peace was fragile. Then one morning, a letter appeared on her doorstep, sealed with Henry's name. Her heart raced as she read the message. Some hearts never stop beating, even in death. Love can be a beautiful thing, but can also be deadly. So, this Valentine's Day, remember, not all love is meant to last forever. Stay safe if you dare.